Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance medical copywriter and copywriting mentor, and today I'm going to share with you 3 pieces of advice I wish I could go back and tell myself when I first started my copywriting business. So, my process was messy and it was filled with tons of tears and self-doubt and imposter syndrome and just a ton of fear and every variety and anxiety and not knowing if I was going the right way or, doing the right things, right? Because this is kind of a self propelled journey. So, I'm going to share with you 3 pieces of advice I really wish if I had a time machine, I would go back, I would sit my younger self down and be like, this is what you need to know. So, the first one is to write your goals down and look at them every day. This is not something I did right away when I started my business. So what that meant is I was all over the place. I was all over the place with the kind of clients I was taking and the kind of income I was getting. My income was up and down. I was doing this was when it was all part-time, and I was doing it on the side of my full-time job. And I was also serving. I'd gotten back into serving a little bit to make extra cash. It was just all over the place and super hectic, right? So when I started actually getting really clear on my goals, and then not only that, not just writing them down and then continuing on with your life, but writing them down and looking at them every single morning, I started to notice things that were in alignment with my plans for myself. I started saying no to clients that were not a perfect fit for me. And saying no is super important. You have to be able to say no if you really want to build a thriving business. So, writing your goals down, looking at them every single day keeps them at the top of your mind, and it will help you as things come along and opportunities in your life that are in alignment with exactly what you want for yourself. You'll start to notice them more, and you'll start to say no to the things that aren't serving your big goals. So write them down, get really specific, and then look at them every day. That changed my life tremendously. The next one is to trust your gut with clients. There were far too many times, way more than I care to admit, where I took on clients where I had a knot in my stomach in dealing with them. Maybe it was because I didn't really believe in what they were selling, or because, they weren't in alignment with my values. They were really difficult to work with. They treated me like an employee. They treated me like downright garbage. And early on, I wanted and needed the money, so I was a little desperate, and I took on people that I should have known better. As time has gone on, I've realized that there is a ton of power in our intuition, and it shouldn't be ignored. I really believe in, listening to that intuition. And for me, sometimes it means, not reacting in a client call when I think, ooh, this is probably not a good fit for me. Sometimes it actually takes sitting down and getting really quiet and listening to that instinct. And since I've started doing that, I have gotten so much better at only working with people I really love working with. And again, it also helps to have those goals at top of mind, because you can remind yourself, why am I really doing this? Because if you're doing it to build a life that you love, which is why I was doing it, there's no reason to be working for clients that make you feel icky inside. It is just not worth it. Honestly, as writers, it makes it really hard to write. When you go to sit down to do something creative, if your heart is not in it, and I don't mean that it's always going to be in it, you're always going to be inspired. I feel very strongly about that. Sometimes you just got to get down and slog through the work. But if it goes against something that you believe in, it's going to be really hard to write. It's just hard to do your job. I mean, I think we all have had a job where we know how hard it is to show up fully and be present when you absolutely just don't believe in what you're doing. And I actually have a really good story about that. I had a client really early on where he was super focused on ultra low fat diets. He was recommending to women that they should basically eat a 0 fat diet. And this is old school information, and it's actually information that made my little sister really sick. She was a very borderline professional athlete. It was back in the day when people thought fat was bad, and it really wrecked with her hormones, because your brain needs healthy fats and to develop and regulate a healthy hormone cycle, you need a lot of good, healthy fats. So I had to write this piece that I just truly did not believe in, but I needed the money. And so I was like, okay, just this one time, but I couldn't do it. And it started to trickle into all other areas of my work. I was getting more anxious about reading my emails. I was getting more anxious about the idea of even being a copywriter, and just everything. It just kind of like spiraled out. And I was like, why am I procrastinating on absolutely everything? And then I stopped, took a second, listened to my intuition. I was like, because you can't write this piece in good faith. You know that this information is actually harmful. So I took a deep breath. I wrote a very brief email. I didn't get too deep into it, but I was like, look, I've been trying to write this piece and actually really struggling because this is information, this is recommendations and advice that actually really hurt my sister. So I can't write this piece. I'm happy to write other pieces for you, blah, blah, blah. And I just made it really simple and sweet. And they actually, instead of being like, you're crazy, whatever, they came back and were like, hey, thanks for saying that, and we totally respect why you wouldn't want to write this piece. Here's another one. It was that simple, but I built it up into this massive ordeal in my head, and I had really let it, kind of take over my life. So I don't do that anymore. I really trust my gut. If somebody seems like they're going to be difficult to work with, they're probably going to be really difficult to work with, and it's just not worth it in the long term for your own mental health. So that's advice number 2. Advice number 3 would be to not compromise on your goals when working with new clients, even when you're desperate for money. Again, this kind of goes back to the same idea of when you are spending time and energy on a client that isn't a good fit for you, or has really made you drop your rates super low, or is treating you like an employee and not with respect. It's time and energy you can't put into developing your craft and finding more ideal clients. So that's time and energy you cannot get back. So when you say no to people who don't line up with your goals and values early and quickly, you really open up the time in your day to focus on things that are actually going to help yourself grow. So those are my 3 pieces of advice I would give myself to save myself a ton of heartache. And I really hope it saves you a ton of heartache because it's just not worth it. So thank you so much for joining. Hit that thumbs up button if you liked it. That tells me you want to see more things like this. And as always, go ahead and drop in the comments your thoughts, your feedback. Do you have any advice that you would give yourself a few years ago? What would you say? I love hearing it. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, I'm really digging your recommendations. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be releasing videos weekly.